Good evening, ma'am.
Assalamu alaikum.
Okay, so we can start with it. We are already live. Okay, so good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. I once again welcome you all to the Beyond Education series, inspiring stories to inspire world, being organized by Idym Group of Companies. This is a unique talk show that invites people from different professions to share their success stories. The people who have come up by facing all the adversities in life and they are successful. So, and the speciality of the show is we have people from different professions and that too from different countries to share their experiences. Well, it is said that all humans are one and only one, regardless of the caste, creed, religion, and race. This oneness should bring the world full of peace and harmony. The future of humanity lies in this oneness. As we narrow down the differences amongst us, broader the outlook on humanity arises, out of which the whole human race can live unto peace. Humanity is not just a word for symbolizing the human compassion and civilization, but it goes beyond the horizons of human nature and its creation. It's my pleasure to welcome a lifelong learner and humanitarian from South Africa, Professor Dr. Ambassador Mehri Mia, ma'am. I welcome you, ma'am, for this show. Mehri Mia, ma'am, has a doctorate in humanities, education, and humanitarianism. She is the Global Goodwill Ambassador, United Nations, GIA, USA, President of Success World One Academy, South Africa, President of Shilpakro International Women's Council, Global Peace Ambassador, Global Award winner, including one of the top 30 women leading change and awardee, entering Women's Hall of Fame, UK. She is the country representative and global educator, IDYM, IIU, GEN, GAF, IYS, and so many. And she is the founder of the MEA company. She is a transformation international life coach, therapist, and mindfulness and holistic empowerment specialist. So this was in short of you, ma'am. And so the next 1 hour is going to be another inspiring session. And I would like to know more about you through this session. So, ma'am, let's start with introduction. So, firstly, I would like to know, ma'am, yeah, now we have known so much about you because of the profile that you have sent. But ma'am, how was your life as a student, and what did you aspire to be during your childhood?
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So I greet everyone in the universal greeting of peace with blessings. So good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are. Thank you so much, firstly, IDYM, for this platform and for the opportunity to grace this platform. And thank you to you, Sister Anjum. Excellent moderation in every role that you are playing. Thank you so much. So thank you for the introduction as well. As a student, well, I'm an only child. Let me start there. So as a student, when you're an only child, you tend to always want to do your best. You only want the A's because you want to make sure your mom and dad are always pleased with your results, and you want to make sure your family is always proud. So this was me as a student from beginning to after grade 12. But as a student, what happens, especially when you are the only child, you tend to want to look for the brother or the sister that way, that even students and people and children will try to use you merely to get what they want out of you because they know what you may need. So, for example, if I was given a little bit of money to go and buy something at a tuck shop, and someone would say to me, well, you know what, you should rather give it to me. It's not a bullying tactic, but it was a manipulating tactic. So they knew I wanted a friend, or I needed a friend, and I would feel if I do this, then they will be my friend. So as a student, there were lots of difficulties in that way, but not academically. But I'm grateful because throughout all of that, the one good thing that came out of my schooling is the bond I shared with my teachers. Because till today, if my mom walks into a store and my dad was alive, when he would go in, and if they bumped into one of my teachers from my school, they would always ask them, "How am I?" So, as much as the teachers always impact the children and the students, we must remember us as students, we also impact our teachers. So, I might have lost many a friend or fellow students, but I gained many a teacher friend while I was studying as a student. So, thank you so much for the question.
Yeah, ma'am, that's really very good to know as a student. But now you are an educator. So, how your life as an educator? How do you like the profession, and how did you choose to be an educator?
Well, one of the things you did ask me before, sorry, I didn't answer you, is what I wanted to be as a student. There were so many things, when you are in primary school and you're very little, you tend to want to do one thing. And then when you get into high school, then it changes. Then when you start to develop tertiary education, it changes again. So I always wanted to be a teacher, then I wanted to be a business person, then I wanted to be a psychologist, and then so it kept changing. Then I wanted to be a lawyer. So by the grace of Almighty, up to today, I think I managed to do each one of them in a small way or the other. So I did study a little bit of law, then I branched off into psychology. I did do the economics parts of my business there. So I did do a little bit of everything. The key for me in education, though, like you asked, is because education is the ultimate. No matter whether you're in the psychological profession, legal profession, whatever profession you choose, it is only education that's going to make you even better in your role that you play, whatever your role, whatever your profession is. So, education for me and how it came about is because I had a massive accident at one point in my life, which left me paralyzed. And they had at that point said to me, I won't walk again, I won't be able to have children, etc., etc. So fast forward to today, I am walking and I am a mother. So I defied those medical odds that were thrown against me. But the only thing that kept me going for the 7 months that I was paralyzed was my mind, the psyche, and the book usage that I could have and developing myself in the process. But remember, if I speak about that, lots of people would say, well, that's psychological. I'm saying it's not just psychological. It's actually me who educated myself to do what I needed to do to become and overcome what the obstacles were at the time. So education for me was embedded, of course, while I was a student growing into my educational skills, yes. But to be the educator for me today was actually where my passion lies. Is because if I'm able to teach of what my life's lesson is, if I'm able to teach of what my journey is teaching me unto others. So it's not just school-like teaching. It's not education only defined in a classroom or at a lecturing space. It's education at every level, to our women, to our children, to our families, etc. If I can give off that teaching and education to anyone that will impact their lives positively, then this is what my purpose is, inshallah. So that is where the education field comes in.
That's wonderful, ma'am. And besides being an educator, you're also active in so many organizations, and we would like to know even about that. Like you're also the president of Successful World's One Academy from South Africa. So, what kind of work or activities are done through this?
Successful One Academy is founded by Queen Nadia Hariri. and I'm the president of South Africa. One of the things that we are very passionate about through the academy is to ensure that we have peace, love, and justice that comes to the fore for everyone. But the other major role that the academy plays is to make sure we try to get education to as many of our children and our people as we can. So as much as we are looking to get into the educational systems to make sure our children get the best of education that they can get, no matter what their financial needs may be, we're also trying to educate our women across the globe to make sure inequality is taken away. We're trying to educate families across the globe to make sure that they are able to grow themselves, to sustain themselves. So Successful One Academy is to do just that. It's an academy to grow our people of humanity successfully for their own journeys so that they can live the best lives they can live.
Yeah, ma'am. Of course, education is actually the self-security development, and we are trying to educate so many people, women, children around the globe. That's a wonderful task that you are doing. And along with
Thank
this,
you.
yeah, something else? Yes.
No, I said thank you.
Okay. Okay, ma'am. And you're also the president of Shilpakro International Women's Council. So, what does this work for now?
Well, this is a presidency that comes from Dr. Alka Mahajan, my lovely sister there in India, and I give her grace and gratitude for giving me this role, as massive as it is, because I truly believe in her mission and vision, which is, of course, Chilpako in itself means from the child to the parent, and from the parent to the child. And why I love her vision and mission is because it marries very well into what mine is and what the balance of what my work entails. And that is because we're trying to grow the child into the best adult, but we're also trying to grow the best adult to get in touch with the child. And remember, us in our world right now, if you're watching me, you're not a parent, but you're not a parent yet, you might be one. And if you are a child, you're going to be that parent. But we need to always identify where is the child, what are the barriers, how to grow ourselves to become the best version and authentic beings we can be. And one of the biggest roles we play through the Women's Council for Chilpako is to make sure all women understand how important it is, the role that they play. Let us not undermine the moms of the world. Let us not undermine the women of the world. Let us know that our girl children play that important role that they play. So from the child that they are, who is out there, to the adult that they have to become and the parents that they have to become. We need to grow and make sure that they educate themselves to the fullest that they can and sustain themselves through their own development, because that is the key ultimately. So this is why I'm very passionate about that role that I play with Chilpako. So I say thank you to Dr. Alka for that.
Yeah, that's again great, ma'am, that you are helping the women to realize about their role. And sometimes, yes, they are not aware of it. They don't understand their own importance and what the kind of role they are playing. And besides this, you're also a good global goodwill ambassador for UNGIE. So, ma'am, what's this? Would you like to share some experience about this?
Okay, so that was the ambassadorship in humanitarianism, which I received from the USA. That was given to me by the GIA, who is affiliated with the United Nations. And that was given to me in 2020. And that was in the middle of us being in lockdown here in South Africa with COVID. But I didn't realize that a lot of my humanitarian work was being recognized and watched and seen by so many people. I didn't realize the number of people that I was touching with the work that I was doing, because I would just, mundanely go out and be the frontliner who will do a feeding or who will go and help people, etc. But I never published it anywhere. I never made it publicly known by photographs or anything like that. So for me, it was just me doing my work for my creator to be pleased with me, of course, and then to just keep going so that I can do my humane work that's needed to be done to make other people grow. I didn't realize the impact it was generating and how it was really impacting on people's lives. I didn't know how many people actually nominated me for the position and who felt that I deserved it. And I was really, really honored when I received it. And that was for me at the time an even bigger motivation, if I can say, because at that point, obviously, in the middle of COVID, business became a downhill. Lots of things, we lost many people. So to boost up your spirit was very, very difficult. And this for me was a godsend gift telling me, Marion, as God, I am telling you to just keep going because I appreciate what you were doing. So for me, the ambassadorship with the GIA was for me a God gift ambassadorship because it was just acknowledging the work I was doing. So that's what it is. And I still do it till today. And by God willing, I will continue to do the humanitarian work because that for me is very important for us to stay in touch, to stay humble, and for us to be able to grow those people who need us out there. That's our mission and our purpose.
You're wonderful, man. And you have been doing really great work. And besides this, like what I just asked about president and the ambassadorship, you're also a global educator and you are representing your country at many international platforms. Like one of them is the IDYM. And besides this, you're also
Yes.
affiliated with other organizations like IIU, GE, and all that. So, now, what is your experience? And firstly, um, how do you think about it, about sharing your experiences at this platform and being associated with this? And especially, how do you manage time to with all this being associated with so many organizations?
Well, thank you for that. I think, again, I say everything really comes from God. It really does. Because if He believes that you have a purpose to fulfill, He will pull you into the field or the space He needs you to be in. So I believe whether I'm with IDYM, or whether I'm with GEN or GEF, IYS, whoever it may be, at that point in time is my appointed time to do something that needs to be done for humanity through that medium. So for me, it's obviously a great honor to represent my country and to represent South Africa on all of these platforms. And especially as a peace ambassador, I'm very, very passionate about trying to make sure our people, not just here in South Africa, but across the world, realize the importance of peace. They realize the importance of peace first within themselves and peace then to generate amongst around them and amongst themselves, because that is the only way we're going to be able to grow together. And that ties in very well with my humanitarian work that I do. So when I represent each of these different organizations through my country, I'm very honored to do that because my country, of course, has got many, many issues. We've been hit with COVID very badly, yes, as was every other place in the world. The comeback from COVID has been very difficult for many people here. And of course, we've then had riots that took away many businesses for many people. We've had multiple floods. We've had earthquakes a month ago. So there's many, many aspects. But also it needs us to educate ourselves and to equip ourselves. So when these adversities and difficulties happen, we are able to stay strong mentally to get through it. Because physically, yes, you will be able to get down. You might lose a home, you might lose your job, but if you are mentally sound and you're stable and you're okay with yourself and within yourself and at peace, knowing that, okay, I can still do this, you will be able to overcome the obstacles you face. So when I touch through each of these different platforms, and this is why IDYM touched me, is because it touched on the youth so much. I truly believe the essence of education is not just the adult only. We need to really tap into how we are educating our youth nowadays. Our youth nowadays, I mean, Sister Anjum, I'm sure you realize, when you have to meet a toddler is able to use a device better than an adult is able to use a device right now. They can teach you how to do a thing or two on devices, right? So this is the kind of mentality of our children. We need to get in touch with that. And we need to realize, you know what, if our children at younger ages are able to be this way inclined, then we need to be able to teach them in the same mannerism as that. So why do we have to let our children, for example, become adults and experience the pains of life, the heartaches of life, the broken hearts, etc., before they realize they need help, they need therapy, they need psychotherapy, etc., when we can actually start to train them from a young age that these are things that might happen in your life. These are the little things, steps you can take when it does happen, and this is how you can control it. If we do this properly via each of these mediums, like IDYM was doing for the youth especially, this is why I was really passionate about joining IDYM and doing what they do, is because we're touching the youth more than we do anything else. We need to be able to tap into their mind and grow them into these different spheres. So when I work with each of these platforms, of course, each of the roles that I play is a little bit different with each one. But in terms of time management, of course, it's priority for me. Like, for example, today, this was on my diary. It's scheduled for the 1 hour, so nothing interferes with this. Prior to this, of course, I had my podcast, which was in the USA. So obviously, my time management is based on my diary. But my time management is based on, firstly, what's my priority, and that's my daughter and my mom. So when I prioritize any of my work, it's always firstly over and above what I have to do for my mom and my daughter. So I know it's a weekend. I then know my days with my daughter, with my mom. Then I allocate this, for example, as a time for IDYM, and hopefully the message goes across to somebody in the world that it touches or makes a difference to. This is how you actually able to manage your time. But in essence, you have to be able to know what is your number one priority and how do you then prioritize the balance so that you're able to meet all of your targets.
Yeah, that's not that. They have to actually prioritize things, and we can be able to do so many things and manage everything. And Isam, as you were talking about the tech-savvy generation, we call today's generation a tech-savvy generation because they are so efficient in handling the devices. So, being an educator, what do you think? What all skills should be there in educator to handle this tech-savvy generation? Because yes, we have to teach them, of course, that is one thing. But what all skills should be developed by a teacher to handle this generation now?
If there's one thing, Sister Anjum, that COVID had taught us is that if you are an elder or an adult and you are not tech savvy, you're going to be left behind. So even if you are a teacher, even our teachers who are old school had to suddenly know how to use a device, how to connect the laptop, how to download an app, how to use Zoom, etc., etc. Teachers who never used to touch computers had to suddenly know how to do these things and make sure they familiarize themselves with how to equip an entire classroom to be done via Zoom. So it's not just about being tech savvy. It's about you understanding that you are an educator. As an educator, your passion needs to be educating your student in whatever means that you can, however that you can. We need to also understand that our children are a little bit ahead of us when it comes to technology. No matter how far you will get, I will think I got it today. Yes, I can do this program. But trust me, my daughter will walk in here and tell me something and I realize, oh gosh, okay, I don't have it just yet. I'm still learning, you know. But the whole idea for you as the educator is to just keep learning because it's going to keep going. Technology is not going to go away. It's here to stay. And if you are going to be somebody who's going to not befriend the technology, you're going to become an enemy of your own. The technology is here to stay. The children are going to be more and more advanced in terms of technology. So you have got to be able to learn, okay, as an educator, I need to be able to understand the mind of my student. Our children's mindset is not the way ours was when we were at school. We were book inclined. We were book and pen inclined. I would sit and I would write down notes. Our kids would be like, okay, I'd record it and then I'd listen to it later. Very different. However, the idea is the same. So don't discourage that the child needs to use their means of how to study because their methodology is technological. Our methodology is book and pen. But the bottom line is we both want to get the same result. We want to get the same outcome. So if we share the same vision, the methodology is going to be a little bit different, but the vision needs to be maintained so that the mission is accomplished, if you know what I mean. So as an educator, it's not easy. It's not easy, especially if you are, like I found in my country, lots of our educators, for example, have difficulties because the children themselves do not have the facilities of laptops or device sometimes because they come from the poor districts or the poor areas. However, when they go into schools, they have access to that in a computer lab or something like that. So when you're teaching these children, you need to be aware that in your classroom of, say, 40 children, you've got 20 to 30 who have the device at home, and you have the balance who don't have the device at home. So when you are speaking to these children, make sure that your children are not feeling superior or inferior. Don't make them feel that there's a barrier between them because the one has and the one hasn't got. Because automatically children talk between themselves. So one would obviously try and show off that I have this at home, and the other one will be like, well, I don't, so I don't like you anymore. But you as the educator need to promote education, and education to everybody as one. So do not make the one child feel superior or inferior to the next. And that is for me paramount, especially when it comes to technology and being tech savvy.
We have to actually change ourselves. We have to adopt. And yes, like we were limited to book and pen, but not now, the generation of today. Because evening class, even we see that if we draw a diagram on the board, we in our time we used to draw it in our notebook. But now they will say they will just take a snap. Ma'am, it's over. We can go further. We can go to the next topic. So they don't want to do it, and we have to sometimes adjust to it also. And yes, like you were talking about the COVID time. So what are all the changes? Because everywhere around, even in India, there are so many changes that have been made in the education system. We can say the way we teach the class and the way we conduct exams. There are so many changes that have taken place after the COVID. So, what according to you in your country, what are those changes that have been made post COVID times in the education system?
I think what is key, Sister Anjum, is for us to realize throughout COVID, for example, as one of the people who was the frontliner doing a lot of work, I realized that yes, we gave a lot of preference and we gave a lot of credit to our doctors, to the police, to the army, to everybody who was in those positions who did their bit to make sure people were dealt with, right? But those were who they called the front lines at the time. But I strongly believe that not enough credit was given to our teachers during that time. And the biggest frontliner for me throughout COVID was our children, because our children just had to endure whatever came. Today, they were told you're not going to school for the next 2-3 weeks. Then they were told while they were at home, you're not going to school again for the next month. Then they were told, well, you're going to go to school, but you're going to not be able to talk to your friends and you're not going to be able to play like you used to play in the playground. Then they were told, okay, you're not coming back to school for the next 2 months because COVID is back again. So can you imagine what that did to our children's mind? Can you imagine what that did to our children's psyche? And did anyone take the time to actually, or even any government, take the time to send out people to counsel and help these children to adapt to the differences that they had to cope with? Children used to look forward to going to school. Why? Because they had their friends there, because they had playtime there, because they would share their lunches together, because they would talk to each other. And all of a sudden, the governments of the world told children, you go to school, but you have to stay away from your friend. You're not allowed to eat from them or talk to them. You can't be close to them. You can't hug your friend anymore. You can't do A, B, and C. How is that school time? But did we prep our children? And worse off, Sister Anjum, was our teachers. Our teachers were told the same thing these kids were told. You're not going to school. Okay, you are going to school. Okay, do this and do that. Then suddenly it was Zoom classes to be done. But these teachers lost people in their own families, in their lives. These teachers suddenly had to become psychologists. They become police officials to make sure everybody's sanitized and has a mask on. They became doctors. They became everything rolled into one, including still being the teacher who had to make sure the results were met at the end of the day. How much of a toll did that take on the teacher as a person, as an individual? That teacher, yes, is a teacher in a classroom, but that teacher is going to have to leave that classroom and still be you. Go home to a family, go home to be a parent to their own child, go home to be a husband or a wife to their spouse, or a mother or a daughter or a son to a parent. Those teachers still have lives over and above being in a school, but they were not given enough credit for what they had to do. They were not given enough credit or even counseling on how to cope, because we lost many, many teachers to COVID. We lost many, many children to COVID. And I'm saying we never gave enough attention to help these teachers and children cope with what they had to go through. So post-COVID, what are we seeing? We're seeing that so many people are trying to, especially the syllabus of lots of the educational departments, they're trying to push through stuff to our children without it being taught properly, purely because they need to make the time frame. So, for example, if you lost 3 months of actual school work because of COVID, now because we're into the system of going back to school again, we want to make sure the syllabus gets finished. So we just throw them, and by them I mean our kids, we throw them with this work and that work that needs to go home. The parents don't have the time to do that work with the child. What does it leave the child with? The teachers don't have the time to teach it properly. What does it leave the teacher with? But yet, the parent expects the child to produce an A result. The teacher is expected to make sure her stats or his stats are showing that they produce an A result. That's not logically possible because none of them are working together. They're not in balance. So there's a lot that we need to relook at because COVID hit us all in different ways. Especially from an educational system point of view, we need to really look at how and what we can do to change this. We need to make sure we're going into schools to make sure the mind of our children is okay. The minds of our educators are okay. We keep neglecting the educator and the teacher, just saying, they'll be fine, they'll be fine. They're not fine. They're not just fine. They go in there and they give 200% to those children, regardless of what they came from in the morning and regardless of what they're going back to in the afternoon. That's a teacher for you. Give them the credit that is due to them. But don't let the teacher be the one to get blamed if the child is not doing well. Let's look at exactly why, analyze things. So post COVID, there are many, many problems, many challenges, but I don't think it's going to be settled overnight. We still have to really look into how we can deal with this so that we can make sure our children get the best out of education instead of the rushed education just to make sure the syllabus gets completed.
Yes, ma'am. Those are really some of the problems that we have faced during COVID and after COVID. Also, we are trying to deal with it. And yes, ma'am, like, okay, this was about education, that there are many more problems that are being faced by the young generation today. So, what are those problems according to you, and how can we deal with those problems?
Our children today are facing too many things. And to be quite honest, I don't think many of us really understand and know what half of them are. And I only know some of it purely because I counsel children. I give therapy to children. But parents don't like to know half the things that their children are going through. I'll give you a quick example. When schools are now opened, right? When they're going to reopen, you're going to have teachers call parents in for parent meetings. Parent meetings are where they will talk to the parent about the child or the child's report or the child's growth in this, certain things about the child. If a teacher has to say to the parent, your child is not doing this well, I think we need to talk about what is going on. A parent turns around and says to the teacher, it's not my problem. How does that help? How does it help the child? And how does it help the teacher if you as a parent are not willing to take on your responsibility seriously? Because the first teacher this child has is you as a parent at home. We need to really, as parents, remember this. You are not just a parent because you're there for the sake of being a parent. You being a parent is the primary teacher. You're the first teacher to your child. So when the secondary teacher, who is the teacher in the school, is posing to you that might be a problem for your child, listen to the teacher. And then more importantly, ask and talk to your child and listen to the child. You will be amazed at how the children themselves are able to speak up if you allow them to. Don't stop their voices because the children must be able to speak what they feel, what they think, and how they feel about stuff. If they find a specific subject becoming too difficult and they come home and tell you, but I'm thinking that this is difficult, please do not tell them, well, I did well in school, so I don't see why this is difficult for you. The child is not living your life. The child is living their life. It is their mind. They're not going to be the same as you. They're not going to be the same as their brother or sister. So don't compare your children. Our children are going through enough difficulties. Another difficulty our children are facing is, and this is sad, is because after COVID, many parents have got many financial difficulties. They have either lost a job or they had to take a cut in their salary or their wage. And this has obviously affected their home and their lifestyle. So the children themselves are feeling this impact. They're also sensing the tension at home because of this impact. There's always arguments, or there's an argument about money, etc. So the children are feeling this at home and taking it into the school. These children do not need to be burdened with the adult world issues. They need to be aware of them, but they don't need to be burdened by them. I'll say it again. Our children need to be aware of certain issues adults are facing, but they don't need to be burdened by them, because they don't need to feel that it is their fault. They don't need to feel that they are the problem. And I say this purely because we have got too many teenage children, especially, committing suicide nowadays because they're feeling this burden. They're feeling that they are a burden. If they are not here, then it will be easier for their parents. How can a child feel that way? Be careful as a parent what language you use at home, the talk that you talk to your people, your adults in your home with. Children are listening. Children are sponging. They're sponging off every word that you are saying. When you are saying something to the effect of, I don't know how I'm going to cope. If you say this, the child is already grasping, I wonder what is wrong. And then your next sentence is going to be, I can't manage all of this stress. I can't manage to have to pay for all this. Even the school I have to pay for, I can't manage anymore. What does this child immediately think? This child thinks that I am a problem. My parent can't afford to pay. If I was not here, then they wouldn't have to pay for me. So they take themselves out the equation and kill themselves. I have seen this happen way too often, and it is so sad because the parent is left behind with this guilt. The parent is left behind with, I didn't mean that. It's too late. So why wait for it to be too late? Start to become more aware as a parent of what is happening, how you are talking, what you are doing. Talk to your children. Your children only want your time. They might need your money, they need to survive, but they want your time, they want your love, they want the dedication. And then get more involved. Get more involved with your children. Ask your children, who is your good friend? Who are your friends? Get in touch with who these friends are so that you know who they are. There are too many trafficking issues that are happening. There are too many influencing, bullying issues that are happening. And if you, as a parent, are not aware of who your children are talking to, what is happening with your children's lives, then when things go wrong, how are you going to answer this? So become more involved. When your child is coming home from school, really take the time without your phone in your hand, put your phone away and ask your child, how was school today? What happened at school today? What is your favorite subject? And this is just something I want to pose to any parent who's listening to us right now, Sister Anju. Do you know what is your child's favorite subject? Do you know what is the hated subject? Do you know who's your child's favorite teacher in the school? Do you know what about school, for example, your child does not like? Do you know all of these things about your child? What does your child like? What do they not like? It's so get involved with your children. Our children are lacking that time. They're lacking time with their families, and they're trying to find that gap that is missing because family is not there. They're trying to fill that gap with the wrong things. And this is what we really need to try and avoid. We need to avoid that. And the only way we can do that is by us taking the time to be there for our children.
Yes, that's wonderful, ma'am. Actually, we see that yes, there are so many problems, but the only solution is we get involved with them, we give more time for them, and that is somewhere what is lacking. I mean, most of the families that all are busy in their own work, all are busy in their own digital devices, and they don't talk to each other, they don't interact with each other, and it, as it is said that the problem to sorry, the solution to many of the problems is just by talking, just by interacting with each other. That was really a very good tip, ma'am. And I hope everyone who is watching us now or will be watching this video later will be surely be benefited by this. And ma'am, as we are talking about education, so it is said that education is the key to development. So, how, according to you, education can be helpful in achieving sustainable development goals, like, for example, SDG 01, that is zero poverty, or SDG 02, that is zero hunger. How can education help in achieving the sustainable development goals?
Remember, we have 17
Yeah,
SDGs, right?
there are
And
seven.
as much as we spoke now of the zero poverty and zero hunger, remember we also have education, we have the inequalities, we have the
Yeah,
capacity for building, etc. From SDG 1 to SDG 17, each one is linked into each other, to be quite honest. We need the one for the next one to actually grow. For us to be able to eradicate poverty, for us to be able to eradicate hunger, we need to be able to learn, firstly, what is it that is creating this problem? Why do we have the hunger and the poverty? I cannot go and change something if I don't understand why it's there and what happened for it to get there. I need to do a full assessment, know what has happened, why is this happening, and then after this assessment, view it and see how can I change it. So it's very easy for leaders of the world to say, well, I don't have money to look after these people. Okay, people don't have money to look after you, but guess what? There is soil. You have your home. Outside your home is soil. You've just eaten something, a potato. There's the peel. Go and plant this peel. Go and plant the seed of something you have just eaten in that soil. Eventually, it will grow into something. That is how you start to develop and self sustain. Now, this is just a hypothetical example I'm giving you, but it's a small example of what we can teach our people to do for themselves. Um, Throughout COVID, I remember I had an interview with the European Union once, and they had asked me my opinion on COVID and what I thought we could change. And I said to them, when COVID hit us, we focused so much on COVID, we focused so much on the virus itself, and we focused on that as the pandemic. But we forgot that we were creating three other pandemics with that. So, as much as we had this pandemic of the virus, we eventually had a worse pandemic of hunger. We had the worst pandemic of poverty. And then we had another pandemic of mental health issues because of COVID. But we focused so much as different leaders of the world, we focused so much on this virus and the pandemic of COVID that we forgot about these other three categories of pandemics. And those three categories of pandemics is what is still with us now, even as COVID is disappearing. So, how do we combat and take away the poverty? How do we take away the hunger? How do we take away the mental health issues? For me, there's only one answer, and that is education. Let's go into a field, let us educate ourselves about why we got to this point, educate ourselves on what we need to do to change it, educate ourselves with how we can change it, what do we need to make the change, and then effect the changes that need to be made. So implement the changes. But for now, I think it is left to each one of us. Each one of us, as the individual that we are, if you are in your home right now and you have a full loaf of bread and you know your neighbor doesn't have one slice, it's nothing bad for you to say to your neighbor, here's 5 slices for you. I still have 15 for my home. You can share. So between us and each other, as we get through the poverty, we can help each other for the handouts from every government organization who's not giving it to us right now. So we can also do our little bits to help each other maintain our children so that our children are able to have a meal at a school, maybe, for example. So you, as the humanitarian you are, because every one of us can be, find it in your heart to help your neighbor. Find it in your heart to help the school, or get involved. Get your children involved. Get your children to share. Instead of sending, if you can afford it, don't send just your child's lunch. If you know in your child's class there are 5 children that don't have food, you get together with 5 of your people in your family and say, help me to make sure these children get fed every day. So instead of sending just one sandwich, you send 2. The next parent sends another 2. So those children all don't get the same meal and they don't feel like I don't have a meal today. So these are little avenues that each one of us can do our little bits so that we can try to help eradicate it from the ground level until the leaders and governments can actually meet us halfway so that we can work with them.
Of course, ma'am. And along with like education, we need to make aware people about human qualities like kindness, compassion, gratitude. That is to be generated among each and every human being. We need to help each other. Is that? And yes, ma'am. Next, what I would like to know is, as an educator, what is that you will never compromise of? What are those things that you will never compromise of being an educator?
I think there's two things. There's two things I will not compromise. I will not compromise, firstly, who I am, and that is firstly pleasing my creator. And the second thing I will not compromise is the quality of the education. So when I want to educate, when I want to do what I need to do, whether it's for the child, whether it's for an adult, whether it's for women, whether it's for whomever it is that I'm trying to educate in whichever field I'm busy with, the key for me is to give 200%, is to give that 100% of myself so that the education level that is perceived by somebody is the 200% that it needs to be. Because the quality education is the only way we're going to be able to get the message across. And I will not compromise on the quality of education. This is why one of my biggest aims in what I do in many of my global platforms is to try and make sure that we can try at some point, inshallah, I really pray God will allow this, that we will be able to eradicate the fee structure for education so that every child across the globe can have free education while our teachers still get paid. The teachers have to get paid. The educator has to get paid. But we don't have to pay for the child. Children are being neglected purely because their parents can't afford those fees. And that is not fair because every child has the basic right to education. The children's basic rights have to be met. The educator's right to be paid have to be met. But at some point, we need to stop and stop with this barrier of the private school sector, public school sector, and creating the barriers in the minds of the children with each other. That's not going to help. So we need to really be able to understand that us as leaders of the world, we have to be able to change things, but we have to change in small ways. We have to change in small, different ways. And that's the only way we're going to be able to see the progress that needs to actually be seen for us to feel the change we need to feel.
Yes, wonderful. And we need change. And yes, ma'am, you have a long list of achievements, actually. But still, what according to you is your biggest achievement in life till now?
There's so many. There's so many, but I think my biggest achievement till today is being a mommy, being a mother, because being a mother has been an educational lesson in itself for me. It alters so many things when you become a parent. Your insight into the world, your insight into you as a person, your insight into how you will do something, how you will develop yourself because you suddenly have a child that you have to, that is looking up to you. So a lot of me and what I have become has been motivated a little bit by me being a mom. My biggest, of course, inspiration is, of course, to my daughter, but my motivating factor is to please my creator. So my achievement for me is that he has gifted me this child. And obviously, I owe it to him to do the best I can and be the best I can be for this child so that she can be able to take it further. So my biggest achievement, yes, is being a mom, because everything that I do is, of course, to be able to leave back a legacy for her to carry through, inshallah. So my legacy is not just one based. My legacy is so many different fields. And I really pray that there are people that are being touched, inshallah, with what I say, what I teach. And those teachings will take those people further. And the whole idea, of course, is, remember, we're not just wanting to touch a person's life for that moment. When I speak or when you speak or when we do anything that we do, we want to touch someone's life, but we want that person to take what we've given them and touch the next person's life. And that's how it must just keep going. So that catalyst effect is what we're looking for. So inshallah, with that achievement, I will continue to keep growing because I'm a lifelong learner. I don't think I will stop learning. Each one of us has to keep learning from cradle to the grave. Knowledge is important. So we don't ever know everything. We don't ever know everything. We need to obviously keep an open mind and know that I have to keep learning. I learn from my daughter right now. So we have to learn from each other. We grow together. And as educators and leaders in the world, we have to be able to know this, humble ourselves always, and learn that your achievements are not certificates. I have got multiple certificates, and I always say, of course, those are thanks to the creator. But the actual worth of the certificate is only based on how you are giving off to humanity based on your education that you got from the certificate, right? So you can have 50 certificates on your wall. It's not going to mean anything unless you're actually impacting someone's life with it. So the whole idea for me is if every achievement is from my creator, but of course he's testing me with it to see what I can do here with what he's given me. So the biggest he's given me, of course, is my daughter. And inshallah, I pray that he will continue to allow me to keep achieving so that I can leave back a brilliant legacy for her, inshallah.
Wonderful, ma'am. Inshallah, you will be able to achieve all those that you wish for. And yes, ma'am, you would have surely thought about your future. So where do you find yourself 5 years or 10 years after now? What all would you like to do with this next 5 or 10 years?
Well, I think, inshallah, the first thing I'd love to do is visit my pilgrimage areas, which is Makkah and Medina. So, because it's been closed off for so long to us all, but that would be my ideal number one. But of
Yes.
course, there's so many other dreams and visions and things that I'd love to do, especially globally for our children and women, education wise. And inshallah, I know I will achieve it. It's just, to open up these academies to be able to make sure every child gets their free education, to be able to make sure our women tend to be able to self-sustain themselves as well, because I found many women come to me for counseling after they lose a spouse, purely because they rely on their spouse so much. And after the spouse is demised or they pass away, the woman is left with, I don't know how to cope. I don't know how to even pay an account. I don't know what to do. So we need to allow our women to realize that you cannot not be involved in the corporate world. You cannot not be involved in the money world. You have to know how this world operates for you to be able to function if you ever have to be alone, especially if you have children. So we need to be able to make our women more aware, grow ourselves, grow our women, grow our children. There's many, many dreams and aspirations I have, and I just beg everyone to pray for me that I am able to achieve every one of them so that many, many people across the globe are able to change their lives positively through me, but it's all from, of course, my creator, not from me itself. I'm just a medium. I'm just an instrument of our creator.
Yes, ma'am. And all our prayers and best wishes are with you, ma'am. And may you achieve all that you wish for. And especially for the first win, I'm surely going to pray for you that very soon you go for your pilgrimage. So very soon you're.
Amen. Thank you.
I mean, and yes, ma'am, before leaving, a message that you would like to give to our audience.
Oh, I think the biggest thing for me, I would tell anybody is please just stay true to yourself and stay true to your creator. If you stay humble and remember that you are created for a purpose, you are created as a gift. Remembering that will make you realize that you are a gift first unto yourself. When you know that you are a gift unto yourself, then you will want to grow and nurture yourself to the best you can be, right? Because you want every gift. If I give you a gift, Sister Anjum, you will look after it. You will treasure it. You wouldn't want to break it, right? So if you view yourself, if you are listening to me, view yourself as a gift that your creator has given unto you. So nurture yourself and grow yourself and look after yourself to the best, because this is your life, it is your journey. And at the end of it, you want to obviously leave behind what is the best of your gift you can leave behind. So you owe it to yourself to develop yourself as a gift and educate yourself to the most and best that you can, so that you can live the best life. Firstly, of course, for the pleasure of your creator and then to yourself. So stay true to him or your creator and stay true to yourself, because that trueness is going to be able to get you very far.
Yes, ma'am. Well said, ma'am. We have to be stay true to our creator first of all, and then the rest of the things will surely follow after that. And
Yes.
yeah, and that was really a very inspiring and motivation and a session with full of knowledge for all of us. Thank you, ma'am, for sharing your valuable experiences with us and sharing your valuable time with us and guiding us on so many issues. So I also thank Ravi Shankar sir for this wonderful opportunity where we are in fact, being a moderator and the same, I have got a chance to speak to so many people. So it was again a learning experience for me also. And as you said, we have to be continuous learners. So thank you to Ravi Shankar sir for this opportunity and the team of IDYM, everyone, those who have been working behind the screen to make this show successful. So thank you, ma'am, once again, and thank you, one and all.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Idym. Thank you, Ravi Shankar. Thank you to everyone who sits behind that computer screen who makes sure we get everything on YouTube on time, we get every program out there on time. It's a lot of effort behind the IDYM team. So we give gratitude to them and we say God bless them so that they can keep going and keep doing even more. So thank you, IDYM, and thank you so much, Sister Anjum. You're doing a fantastic job with all your moderating and with your knowledge skill as well. So thank you for what you do. And thank you for this opportunity. It was really a pleasure talking to you. I really am grateful for the opportunity.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Amen.